We tend to talk about focus as if it's binary. We are either locked in or distracted. In reality, it is a lot more nuanced than most productivity hacks make it sound. Focus exists on a spectrum, and each state has its purpose. The most productive people are not locked in all day. Instead, they are aware of where they are on the focus spectrum and are skilled at making intentional transitions throughout the day. There are four key transitions that we want to get good at. Let's start with hyperfocus. It's a state that is deeper than flow and is often involuntary. The world blurs out, time dilates, and we are consumed by the task at hand. This state is usually triggered by high interest and a sense of novelty mixed with urgency. It's often linked to neurodivergent states such as ADHD and can easily tip into burnout when we forget to eat or rest. The tunnel vision that it provides can be a huge boost to productivity, but it can also waste resources if we are not careful and get too fixated on the wrong problem or approach. Moving along the spectrum, we have the Goldilocks zone. Deep focus is the state of flow that many of us covet. It is characterized by an immersion in an activity while still being self aware. We are choosing to stay with the task rather than being consumed by it. This state is most easily triggered when we have a clear goal, a structured environment, and a challenge that is just slightly above our competency. It creates cognitively demanding work that is fun and the process is extremely satisfying. This is when we have the highest objective clarity, fantastic for tackling complex and deep problems. But as we've experienced before, this is also a very fragile state. It is not only difficult to enter, but it is also easy to drop out of. Often, it just takes one distraction and the spell breaks. Next, we have structured focus. It is also an intentional state, but without full immersion. Maybe with some interruptions here and there, but we are still moving with purpose. It doesn't get the same hype as flow, but it is arguably more important because it allows us to stay in this state for hours without breaks while still remaining mentally sharp. This is the most sustainable focus state that most of us should strive to maintain as the default. It is often triggered when we have a clear task list, medium energy, and a manageable environment. Next, we have our functional multitasking mode, also referred to as divided attention. Our mind is active but not locked in. We are skimming social media or juggling tasks, and we often find ourselves reacting to external cues. This is also the most dangerous state. The biggest trap of light focus is that it makes us feel productive because of how many things we are working on simultaneously. However, it often lacks any meaningful progress and it makes us prone to making mistakes. This state is perfect for batching executional, low commitment tasks such as cleaning the house, writing a shopping list, or archiving emails. Finally, we arrived at diffused focus, or a state of open awareness. This is where our attention is involuntarily put away from our intended focus by internal thoughts or external stimuli. Distractions can range from the ping of a notification to a sudden worry about an upcoming deadline. And it is not a negative state to be in. Some of our most valuable insights emerge from this space because we are finally giving our mind time to drift and freely explore any thoughts that we have. This state is triggered when we are relaxed with low stimuli, such as lying in bed before sleep or showering. Great time for idea association and creative thinking. So now that we understand each focus state and their functions, it becomes clear that while flow feels incredible, it is not meant to be sustained and it is not the only state for meaningful work. There are four key transitions that we want to get good at. You may think that entering flow state is tough, but shifting from diffused focus to structured focus is actually the most difficult transition. This shift from wandering thoughts to purposeful action carries the most inertia as these two focus states are mediated by two different networks. We literally have to suppress and override our relaxed state, then activate executive control networks in our prefrontal cortex for this to work. This is the reason why once we get distracted, it is very easy for the rest of our day to get unrailed as we slip into a mental fog and low grade restlessness. The easiest way to get back on track is to utilize task initiation with these three methods. First, don't get too ambitious and try to jump straight into a huge task from a state of rest. Start small with micro tasks such as opening the document, skim through yesterday's notes, or read just one paragraph. Chain these tiny tasks together as you warm up cognitively, making use of successive approximation to get closer and closer to our target behavior. Changing lighting, posture, or even scent can act as cues for our minds that we are looking to shift into a different headspace. We can even leverage context dependent memory by setting up transition rituals to make this shift progressively easier as we condition our minds. It could be something simple such as playing 5 minutes of chill hop before starting structured work or sitting in a particular chair. The main thing is to introduce a recognizable element to signal to our brains that we are changing gears. The last method is to lower unnecessary cognitive barriers by using if-then planning or implementation intentions. We'll augment the previous methods with an easy and straightforward rule, such as when it's 10 a.m., I'll open my document. Or when I sit down at this chair with my coffee, I'll look through my meeting notes. This helps to reduce decision fatigue and set up our own ramp for a successful transition. So now that we've started on our tasks, how do we go deeper into flow state? In order to make this transition, we want to build up our cognitive momentum while reducing attentional residue. We'll start prep work while we are still in structured focus. Make sure that we should only be working on a single task. Set an explicit and detailed goal so that we know exactly what we are trying to achieve when we enter flow. Then make sure that all possible distractions are blocked to protect our time. This means that phone is on silent and put away. Close any other programs or apps that you won't be using. And there are no other ongoing or upcoming tasks, such as waiting for the laundry to be done or expecting a food delivery. Next, start on our task and try to work without interruptions. We want to remember that momentum beats perfection. Make sure that we are able to see that we are making progress, either from sensory cues such as visual representation of what we've done, or any other form of immediate feedback, such as being able to see results of our tests or have a sounding board for our thoughts. This allows us to keep up the momentum without second guessing ourselves. If you're able to get to where the process itself feels enjoyable and rewarding, congrats, you've entered flow state. But if you keep getting stuck in your work and it's interrupting your momentum, or if you're getting bored or restless, then this task might not be ideal for flow. Csikszentmihalyi's research highlights the importance of finding a task that is just slightly above our current skill level. This presents an attainable challenge when we stretch ourselves, but not so difficult that we are constantly met with obstacles, and not so easy that we are not cognitively stimulated. When we feel the flow state fading, don't try to fight it. Take a moment to reflect and note down what worked. Now that we know how we can transition into this state, we can always re-engage later. Now, why would we want to transition to a state of divided attention? Isn't this counterintuitive to being productive and performance oriented? Well, turns out that decompression is just as important. Cognitive load theory warns that without cognitive offloading, we can suffer from fatigue and reduced working memory capacity. A proper transition from flow state to light focus helps us to restore cognitive flexibility and close any outstanding mental loops. To start, officially wrap up our previous work phase by writing down where we've left off. Note down the status, next steps, and any questions or ideas that we'll want to explore in our next session. This helps to reduce attentional residue by giving our tasks a proper closure and a peace of mind that we'll know exactly how to pick this up later without unnecessary worrying. Next, consider a shift in modality to reset our nervous system. If we've been writing, take a break with a short visual or spatial task such as renaming files or cleaning up your folders. Alternatively, a short walk or stretch works just as well. Finally, we want to be mindful and intentional about the next task we're switching to. This helps to prevent slipping into distractions unknowingly. The last transition we want to master is letting go of structure and moving into a more organic headspace. There are plenty of research that shows non goal oriented thinking boosts creativity, emotional processing, and memory consolidation. Similar to flow state, we want to deliberately block a time for this and remove all potential distractions before we start. Choose a task that is low effort, something like taking a walk, doing dishes, journaling, or sketching. Make sure that there are no other inputs competing for our attention. We can also encourage our thoughts with reflective prompts and a log or nature triggers to help loosen cognitive rigidity. Remember to keep it loose and free flowing. There is no right or wrong answers here, only exploration of our own thoughts. Give them space to wander and develop. Most productivity systems fail because they treat focus like a static state. But once we start approaching it with transitions in mind, we can move from being reactive to being intentional with our attention. Remember that you don't need to stay focused all day. I hope this video was helpful and see you in the next one.